We've got Ryan in St. Louis. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad.
I just wanted to talk about when you guys before were saying that the idea of what's the harm is kind of irrelevant, whereas we should be concentrating on is it true?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of, maybe I'm missing something, but I kind of see it the other way around, that truth has no inherent value to it. It only is helpful if it reduces harm. So I think what's the harm should be the key issue.
I didn't mean to say that harm isn't important, but on the question of whether you should hold a particular belief, if you hold a particular belief just in the face of the facts, just because you think you're going to cause less harm that way, then I think you're wrong. I think that if you latch onto a belief merely because you want to do less harm, then you're not paying attention to reality. And the best way to cause a lot of harm is not to pay attention to reality.
And I think, in addition to what Jeff said, truth is paramount. I'm not devaluing harm, because I will fully admit that there are occasions where the truth must be suspended in order to prevent harm. Things like we're hiding Jews upstairs and the Nazis come and knock on the door and, they say, are they here? I'm not going to tell the truth. I'm preventing obvious harm there. I think those are simple cases. What I think happens too many times is somebody presumes that they can see the full scope of potential harm of something, and so the harm gets overemphasized. When we talk to people, one of the most common what's the harm subjects is so-and-so has just lost a loved one. They've died, and they are comforted by what I consider to be a delusion that this loved one is in a better place. And people would say there's no reason for us to try to take away this particular delusion, even if we were to know that it wasn't true. I mean, in my case, I have no reason to think that they're in a better place. I do not have evidence that they're not, other than everything I know about who they are is lying there in a box. But so the claim is, what's wrong with letting them keep these harmful delusions? Maybe nothing, but maybe everything. I'm not walking into funerals. I'm not going to the funerals of people that I care about and walking up to the people who are saying, it wasn't Grandpa awesome and he's now in a better place and blah, 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 and he's looking down on us and someday we get to rejoin with him. I'm not walking up to those people and saying, you're a delusional nutbag. What I am saying, though, is that if we understood and dealt with these things in terms of truth, we might find that delusion is actually preventing us from dealing with the situation honestly in a way that is much more beneficial. For example, providing a delusion that kind of assuages our guilt may not be as effective as having a better understanding about what life is and when it might end from the get-go. Because if you spend your entire life with the understanding that this is the one and only life that you're going to get, that we have no idea what, if anything, happens to us after death, then all of a sudden death takes on a different tenor. Death takes on something where, yes, you can grieve the loss of somebody, but you can do it in a way that perhaps may be more healthy. And that the delusions that people have been latching onto are preventing them from developing healthier relationships and preventing them from dealing with each other in more honest ways for the course of their life. We don't know. It may be the case that lies do result in the better possible world in that type of scenario, and it may be the case that they don't. But I think it is monumentally arrogant and harmful of people to presume that they know and therefore say that this is we need to let people keep their delusions. I'm not convinced we need to. I'm convinced enough that I'm not going to go tramping through somebody's funeral, but I'm not convinced enough that I'm not going to be striving to teach people this outside of the funeral, to help people come to the recognition about what life is, so that maybe when they get to the funeral, they won't bother to, trying to delude themselves. I don't know.
Okay, good speech.
Thanks.
One last question before I go. The way people answer this a lot of times surprises me, but I was curious how you would answer it. If you could choose to be happy or right, but not both, which one would you choose?
Right.
I see, and I kind of reject that.
Now, hang on. Let me explain.
The question I meant.
All you gave me was the ability to choose to be happy or right. You're not telling me that your scenario does not say that if I'm right, then I can't be happy. But I would rather be the guy who's right and then from that position try to achieve happiness, and because I think that's the way to go. If I'm just happy, I could also be not right, and then I'm flailing around.
Yeah, but that violates the premise of my question.
It does? Your premise?
One or the other.
Yeah, which
I
is why
really can't. I absolutely can't be happy if I'm right. Yeah, then I reject the premise as well. I thought you were just giving me two optional wishes, right? If I wish to be right, then once I'm right, then I can work on happy. If I just wish to be happy, then I'm done.
Yeah, I have to
haven't
reject the
necessarily
premise
accomplished anything.
because I too would choose to be right over being happy, but I would choose it because being right makes me happy.
Okay, so but then again.
I mean, if you actually said, here are the only options, you can be happy and you're wrong, or you can be correct and you're miserable, I'd probably still go with being correct because I have this craving to understand reality as accurately as possible. And the fact of the matter is sometimes
But that craving is like happiness, right? So
which is why I had to
craving.
Which is why I had to reject the premise. The thing is, there's another aspect of that craving. You can't separate the two. I'm saying if we were forced to, I'd still go with the right because I have an insatiable curiosity about the universe. And even if I found that I wasn't being happy, I mean, if I was actually given a choice. Fortunately, we don't have to accept the premise, and we don't have to make that choice. I can be right and be happy, and I usually am both.
Okay.
How's that?
That's good. All right. Well, thanks for taking my call then.
Sure. Thanks, Ryan.
Bye.
Everybody wants to be right. I think a lot of the motivation of things like faith is it's a way of cutting, straight to the chase. I get the feeling that I'm right without having to do any of the hard work.
Yeah. The harsh reality is that the truth isn't always something that's going to make you happy. Oh, it's one of the questions, that come up in these little games about would you want to know? So you're dying of cancer, would you want to know? For some people, like me, the immediate answer is, hell yeah.
Right.
I want to know. I want to know for lots of reasons because I want to know as much about everything as I possibly can, but also because there may be things I can do about it. Well, it may be the case that I'm terminal and have 3 days to live and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. And some people might look at that and say, well, gosh, that'd just make me miserable, so I don't want to know. No. It'd make me happy because instead of, for example, sitting around watching TV and answering emails for 3 days, I'd go do something else for those 3 days if I knew they were my last 3.
And then some prick, as you're dying, in your last 5 seconds says, I could have told you 3 days ago, but I thought you'd be happier not knowing.
Oh, that would be so irritating. Oh, you're laying there and you're struggling for breath and the doctor comes in and says, we knew you were going to die today about 3 or 4 days ago, but we decided it was in your best interest not. Who are you to presume what's right for me?
Right.
So yeah, I'd want to know.